Good afternoon, my fellow Americans. My name is Anthony Catella. I am a St. Charles resident of St. Charles, Illinois, and an Army veteran. And I would like to speak to you for a few moments on this October day from the theme, "The Time for Greatness is Now." Why I support Donald Trump for President of the United States. This November, Americans will come to a decision point. Who will we elect to become the 45th President of the United States? 10 presidents after John F. Kennedy. This, you might say, is a crisis. In Chinese calligraphy, the character denoting crisis signifies both danger and opportunity. We face danger in our time, but we also face opportunity. The choice is ours, and as free citizens of this great republic, we and we alone can decide for ourselves the road we will take. Decision 2016 is charged with destiny. After nearly 8 straight years of the worst president since Jimmy Carter, a Democrat, we have an opportunity to make America great once again. We have no time to lose, and we have no time for defeat. Once again, to make America great once again. Because we've always been great. Because of our founding ideals. But we need to recapture these ideals, and that is the greatness to which America must return. The president we elect this year will disclose quite clearly which path we have chosen to follow. It will reveal the road we are headed down on such issues as national security, the economy, health care, immigration, international relations, and the size and scope of government. The two candidates hold divergent views on each of these issues. Hillary Clinton does not view these issues in a manner consistent with our nation's values, vision, and heritage. Donald Trump is the candidate whose views on these and other issues is consistent with America's founding growth and development. This election is about big ideas, not small schemes and failed policies of a person who says such things as, "What difference does it make?" Donald Trump knows that there is much difference in the world that can be made by a foreign policy blunder or success. Donald Trump will fight to ensure the survival of our country with sound foreign and domestic policy. This election is about making a stand to make America great again. Donald Trump stands on the solid rock of his faith in America. He recognizes we have challenges, but he has enough faith in our ability as a free people to master our own destiny. He is consistent and clear and concrete in his positions. Hillary Clinton's stand on every issue is as clear as the statement, "That depends on what the definition of is." And her stands on the issues are as firm as a foundation of jello, and with as much backbone as a chocolate eclair. We, my fellow King Countyans, Illinoisans, Republicans, and Americans, we must take a firm stand, a firm position, and stand with our candidate for lower taxes and reforms which create jobs, strengthen free enterprise, and lift up economic growth. We must stand with Trump for the reduction of the federal debt and the size of the federal government. We must stand with Trump for the restoration of America's leadership and strength in dealing with China, Russia, ISIS, Iran, and North Korea. The only way to ensure our leadership and strength in the world in facing foe and helping friend is to strengthen our armed forces. And if there's one thing a president of the United States is, it is commander-in-chief of this nation's armed forces. And he must see to it that they have everything they need to ensure the common defense. We must stand with Trump for the nomination of judges who interpret the Constitution and enforce laws and not make them. We must stand with Trump for a secure national border to our south, to build a wall to protect that border, and to enforce long-standing immigration laws which reduce illegal immigration. We need to face Mexico squarely on this issue, and it can be resolved in a manner that is fair and safe to all concerned. In fact, construction of a wall to our south would do 3 things. It would give our people jobs, it would protect legal immigration, maintain legal immigration, and it would protect us from terrorist attacks coming from the South. So those three things are very important. We must stand with Trump for the Second Amendment to our beloved Bill of Rights. A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We must stand with Trump for a clean environment, but also reduce the power of the EPA to levy costly regulations that hurt industry and destroy jobs. This stand is a stake for our future well-being as a people and a nation. The Republican Party has placed its faith and trust in nominating Donald J. Trump to make this great effort. And we must, as Republicans, conservatives, and Americans, stand with our candidate, unanimous and united, for what we want for our country. The Republican effort is pitted against the well-oiled machine of the Clinton-Obama Democratic Party. And therefore, we can ill afford to be a house divided against ourselves as Republicans. The Democratic Party stands for destructive big government, radical left-wing policies that will weaken America on the world stage. And this does not but damage to our country. We do not want America weak. We want America strong. This country is great because of its heritage of freedom. This freedom is what has engendered our progress and ideas, intellectual self-reliance and research, and also for our great production of goods. This freedom has given our people the highest standard of living in the world's history. This freedom is under threat by the radical liberals in this country. Hillary Clinton often speaks of a vast right-wing conspiracy. I'd like to suggest that she and people like her are part of a vast left-wing conspiracy. You see, the tables can always be turned. This conspiracy, if you will, is cloaked in liberal policies of spending and taxation and the excessive big government, big power of big government in Washington. This conspiracy is like the Catalan conspiracy in Rome. It was an attempt to subvert the Roman Republic, and it was put down by Cicero and his band of patriots. It is as the assault of Tarquin, who also challenged the Roman Republic, but was repulsed by the family of noble Brutus. In both these crises, the Roman Republic was saved by the heroic patriots who loved their country and would not see it sundered by its enemies which threatened from within and without. Donald Trump has been fighting the growth of big government for years as a businessman. He stands for the free enterprise system. He is our Cicero who can break the left-wing conspiracy. He is our Brutus who can roll back the tide of left-wing dictatorship and save America. Our candidate would agree with Abraham Lincoln, the first Republican president, who said, "The dogmas of the quiet past are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so must we think anew and act anew. We must disenthrall ourselves, and then we shall save our country." My fellow citizens, I plight to you that we can only save our country and preserve our liberty by putting into the White House Donald Trump, a man imbued with a hatred for totalitarian spending and power. Donald Trump is a man who also has an imbued love of liberty and freedom, the liberty of each and the freedom of all. This freedom and liberty, so dear to the American spirit, can only survive with small government, a wise and frugal government, as Thomas Jefferson said. Freedom and liberty survive and thrive with fiscal responsibility, lower taxes, secure borders, free enterprise, a strong military, conservative judges. The Second Amendment, indeed the entire Bill of Rights, which Jefferson championed. All of the Bill of Rights is important, but another of them is worth quoting. And this is the 10th Amendment, which reads, "The powers not delegated to the United States, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively or to the people." This is an essential element of the American political system, for it strikes that delicate balance of power between the central government and the several states. We can only have a union of free peoples if the states and the people are given their rights within the broad scope of action. Within the wide scope of the law, a free people live in liberty. Indeed, the state motto of the great and sovereign state of Illinois says it all, sums it up the best. State sovereignty, national union. And so we see what is at stake in this election. Here is yet another. Hillary Clinton and her people support Obamacare, and they are in favor of expanding it. This is socialism. We have not been, are not now, nor shall ever be a socialist country. It's simply not in the Constitution. As president, Donald Trump has pledged he will ask Congress to repeal this socialist act. Hillary and her fellow Democrats want to raise taxes, to expand the reach of government in our lives. Taxation without representation is tyranny, said James Otis, a lesser-known patriot. Now we can say representation that supports higher taxation is tyranny. Trump will scale back government at all levels and maintain the Jeffersonian ideal of a wise and frugal government. A thought to bear in mind when considering the isms of our day is this. What we call conservatism today was the liberalism which founded our republic. The magnificent words in the Declaration of Independence and the whole theory of our Constitution is the classic liberalism that recognizes the dignity of the individual as a child of God and grants him or her a life of freedom because he was given that freedom from his Creator, the Almighty God. The liberalism of today, on the other hand, is rooted in European socialism from the mid-19th century and the communism of the 20th century. Jefferson expounded upon his philosophy in his 1801 inaugural address. What is more necessary to make us a happy and prosperous people? Still one more thing, fellow citizens, a wise and frugal government, which shall restrain men from injuring one another, shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned. You should understand what I deem the essential principles of our government: equal and exact justice to all men of whatever their state or persuasion, religious or political, the arraignment of all abuses at the bar of the public reason, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, and freedom of persons under the protection of the habeas corpus and trial by jury impartially selected. This sounds very much like the Bill of Rights. Jefferson was a Democratic Republican, the opposite to the Federalists. His election in 1800 was very bitter and very close against John Adams, the Federalist's second president. The election was finally decided in the House of Representatives, and it well may be that this election be decided in the House of Representatives. It could be. It's so close, and so, and then the two candidates have such are vying with such strength in the polls. The polls are very, very close. It may happen. It might not happen. After that election, Jefferson emerged as the victor. He summoned Americans to unity when he said, "We are all Federalists. We are all Republicans. We are all brethren of the same principle." In this, Jefferson was saying we are all Americans, and this is our beloved country that deserves our faithful service. I sometimes wish that we had no political parties in this country, that we were all the American party. The presence of political parties in this country began with the very framing of our Constitution, interestingly enough. The people in favor of the Constitution called themselves Federalists. The people against the Constitution referred to themselves as Anti-Federalists, who became the Democratic Republicans. The issue during the Constitutional Convention and the subsequent ratification debates was how strong would be the central government and to what extent the states had their rights. This debate spawned political parties, and it even sparked a great civil war. And that decided evermore the indivisibility of the Union and the supremacy of the Constitution. And yet the argument among free men still goes on today between Republicans and Democrats over the extent and strength of this government of ours, under this stars and stripes of ours. And again, as an Illinoisan, I say state sovereignty, national union. As long as we maintain the concept that we are a government of laws and not of men, that no man is above the law and all men are under the law, as long as we maintain the theory that the state was made for man and not man for the state, as long as we are a nation that has a government and not a government that has a nation, as long as it is we the people and not we the government, then so long shall we remain a nation of free men. As Abraham Lincoln said, as a nation of free men, we must live through all time or die by suicide. And this is the eternal answer to every form of tyranny over the mind and spirit of man. As Thomas Jefferson wrote, I have sworn upon the altar of God eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the mind of man. James Madison wrote of the nature of political parties, or what he referred to as factions, in the Federalist Papers. He wrote, liberty is to faction as air is to fire. It is because we have liberty that we have the intellectual freedom to believe what we think is right and to associate ourselves with those of our fellow citizens of like mind. In politics, with parties, we can disagree, but we ought never to be disagreeable. To look at the politics of the day from the viewpoint of one party or that of another is not merely to suggest that there is one view proper to this party or that party, but to know that issues are looked at from various points of view and yet fundamentally viewed as a whole. The great end of politics is to bring parties together upon a platform of accommodation and combination, to build a consensus of viewpoint, and thence to move forward as one people under one flag with the blessings of one God. Since the election of 1800, generations of Americans have voted for their presidential candidate of choice of whatever party. From these decisions has always come a leader who, though he or she be of a party, is also a fellow citizen of our beloved land. We are Americans, and this is the unity that keeps us free in spite of the many divisions which beset us. To save ourselves from divisions which threaten us asunder, we would be wise to take heed to the warning words of our Savior Christ and Abraham Lincoln. A house divided against itself cannot stand. I do not expect the American house to fall, but I do expect it to cease to be divided, for we will become all one thing or all the other. We dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder, as President Kennedy warned. We share much in our national life as Americans, of whatever political persuasion. Woodrow Wilson once asked, of what use is a political party unless the nation seeks to use that party to accomplish a large and definite purpose? Our political parties serve the nation. The nation does not serve our political parties. We can meet any crisis only as a united people. It is in our best national interests always to distill from our differences strong programs which yield us a strong nation, economically, socially, morally, militarily, and above all, spiritually. For after all, we are above all and over all a nation under God. This ideal, which has guided us so long and so well, has been under attack from various quarters and by recent Supreme Court decisions. One of the most important decisions a president faces is to appoint justices to the Supreme Court of the United States, the highest court in the land. The next president will be appointing a justice to fill one vacancy left by the revered Justice Antonin Scalia, and they will be faced with two more vacancies. We need a president who will appoint principled conservative justices who take seriously their oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, which, among other things, provides for the free exercise of religion. Another of America's founders was Dr. Benjamin Rush, a close friend of Jefferson's and a signer of the Declaration of Independence. He worked with the Reverend Richard Allen to found the AME Church, the African Methodist Episcopal Church, and also served under 3 presidents of different parties, albeit, and he was asked to which party he associated himself, and this was his answer: I have been alternately called an aristocrat and a Democrat. I am now neither. I am a Christocrat. I believe all power will always fail of producing order and happiness in the hands of man. He alone who created and redeemed man is qualified to govern him. As another Benjamin, this one Franklin, sagely observed, God governs in the affairs of men. Yet, God gives us our freedom to think and act according to the exercise of our free will. He has also revealed to us how to act through his prophet Micah. You have been shown, O man, what is good, and what the Lord doth require of you, only to do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. America has always been a nation under God. And as Ronald Reagan once reminded us, if we ever forget we are a nation under God, we'll be a nation gone under. A nation under God. This means we recognize his providence and try to act in accord with his providence, following the laws of nature, which is God's will for man. God wills to bless us with abundance from heaven. He asks us to try him in this through his prophet Malachi, that he would open the windows of heaven for us all, that his blessings may come down. And God's blessings are among our most cherished and treasured gifts as a nation. But God's blessings are not only for America, but for all mankind. And America has always been charged with not only enjoying the blessings she has been given from God, but to extend them to our fellow citizens throughout the world. President George Washington, sagely observed, "It is the duty of all nations to acknowledge the providence of Almighty God, to obey his will, to be grateful for his benefits, and humbly to implore his protection and favor." This is our Judeo-Christian heritage, which has always been the true and solid bulwark of our republic. There may be a separation of church and state, and the phrase, by the way, is nowhere in the First Amendment, but there in no way need be a separation of an entire people from their godly heritage. The Democrats tend to side with atheistic humanism. That is a godless philosophy, contrary to the American way. The American way finds its strength in the way, the truth, and the life, because this is the spiritual rock on which the American way was founded. Upon the solid rock of Christ we stand. All other ground is but sinking sand. This means we are a Christian nation, but it does not mean we exclude other faiths, because we always believe in the free exercise of religion under our Constitution for all of our people, black men and white men, Jew and Gentile, Islamic, Protestant, and Catholic, all sing together the hymns of freedom. This is one of the most important elections in our history. It ranks with that of 1800, 1860, 1932, 1960, 1980, and even 2000. It is a choice not merely between two candidates, but between two divergent visions of America. It is between the fresh air of progress and the stale, dank, dark atmosphere of reaction. It is between dedication to greatness and the slavery to mediocrity. It is between the old rhetoric of the same old divisions and roadblocks and the new vision for unity and progress for all of our fellow citizens. It is a choice between liberty and freedom. The liberty and freedom of the American people. And yet, my fellow citizens, the issues that concern us today are not really new. They have really always been constants in our national life. In his 1962 address to the Corps of Cadets at West Point, a distinguished alumnus, General of the Army Douglas MacArthur, listed the political questions of his day, which sound so much like those of our day. Is our strength being sapped by deficit spending indulged in too long, by federal paternalism grown too mighty, by power groups grown too arrogant, by politicians grown too corrupt, by crime grown too rampant, by morals grown too low, by taxes grown too high, by extremists grown too violent? Are our personal liberties as thorough and as complete as they should be? These were the great national concerns of over 50 years ago, and they are today our concerns, our problems. They can be problems that never end, or they can be the challenges that spur us on to reach that better day that knows no end. Our challenges are what should spur us and motivate us to always write an ever greater chapter in our history. a chapter which reads as the path of the just, which is as a shining light that shineth more and more unto the perfect day. We're not there yet. Our whole history is the glorious journey towards that glorious end. Because for America, there is always a bright dawn ahead. Our America is at a crossroads of her being. We have been there before at various points in our history. Historian Shelby Foote referred to the Civil War as one of those crossroads, because that war defined us. It truly made us the nation we are. And he added, it was a hell of a crossroads. Today, America is at another crossroads of being. It may well be another hell of a crossroads. And it is at this crossroads where America must find her greatness once again. Abraham Lincoln was once called upon to raise a large American flag during this crossroads of our being, the Civil War. He spoke to the people gathered on that occasion and said, in substance, "It is my duty to raise the flag. And if the mechanism cooperates, I will raise the flag. And once up, it will be the duty of the people to keep it up." And with these words, Abraham Lincoln successfully raised the Stars and Stripes to cheers and a military band playing a triumphal air. It is in the broad light of this new day that we too stand to perform two duties. One is to make America great once again, and once made great again, the additional duty is to keep America great. This, my fellow countrymen, is the conception I have of the meaning of this time for greatness. This conception is founded upon my faith in the unlimited destiny and the unconquerable spirit of America. We need Donald Trump. I believe Donald Trump can see us through this crossroads of our being. As after Buchanan we needed Lincoln, as after Hoover we needed Roosevelt, as after Johnson we needed Nixon, as after Carter we needed Reagan, so now after Obama we do not need another Clinton. We need to make America great again. We need Donald Trump. We are at a political crossroads, but in a more profound sense. As a people, we are at a spiritual crossroads. To a crisis of the Spirit, we need an answer from the Spirit. To find that answer, we need return to our spiritual and religious heritage. The choice before us is quite clear: Christ or chaos, conviction or compromise, discipline or disintegration. Yes, we have rights and privileges as American citizens, but we also have just as sacred duties and responsibilities. As American citizens, we have duties and responsibilities to maintain and protect our rights and privileges. For if we neglect one, we may surely lose the other. As Dwight Eisenhower said, a people that values its privileges over its principles soon loses both. Our destiny depends upon godly leaders chosen by godly citizens to accept and demonstrate the government of God. This is to place our nation under God, as mentioned before, to allow it to be led by the divine assistance. This is the hallowed path which alone can lead us to restore America to greatness and greatness to America. As in other crisis periods in our history, the presidency is the key office. Donald Trump runs for the presidency because, like you and I, he has strong ideas about the United States, playing a great role in a turning point in history. Now, as in other crisis periods, the cause of freedom is imperiled nearly all over the globe. Our country stands as the sole sentry at the gate, as the watchman upon the walls of world freedom. We can literally see the campfires of the enemy burning on the distant hills. This is what is at stake today. This is what we are attempting to determine. In the next 4 years, all of us will be tested anew. We will either be tested anew, or it will be the same old thing. I would much rather be tested anew. I want to hear the trumpet call summon us from the valley to the hilltop. It is time once again, my fellow countrymen, to climb to the hilltop. I see Uncle Sam raise a saber in his hand. I can hear the cannons roar as we make a brave stand. We are marching in the battle of the red, white, and blue. When the cannon smoke clears, I know we'll see yet again our flag still there. Our courage will be tested, and I am confident that Donald Trump is a leader who motivates Americans who love their country to give an affirmative answer to the call of duty, honor, and country. It is not deplorable to reverse and repair the damage that this present administration has inflicted upon our economy, society, and freedom. It is deplorable, however, to allow this damage to continue if Clinton is elected. We do not want America wrong. We want America strong. We want and we need America strong. There is no other way to have it. It is wrong to be weak. It is right to be strong. America's future is on the line. We must, as Theodore Roosevelt said, act as in a football game. Don't flinch, don't fold, and hit the line hard. Foreign and domestic challenges face us. Trump is ready to face them squarely as our next president. We return to the question, where do you stand? I stand with a man who knows and understands the temper of the times in which we live. We live in interesting times indeed. Donald Trump is the Johnny Freedom who is ready to lead. This Yankee Doodle dandy is handy for the job. We owe him and we owe ourselves a favor to elect him President of this United States of America, this union of free peoples. I thank you.